So, how to buy materials, that's the next subject. And this is an interesting one because most people would say, well, I go to the electrical wholesalers to buy the materials. And that's true, that can be an excellent source of buying materials. But then the question is, well, which wholesaler do you use? How do you get an account? And what about situations where the wholesaler doesn't have the things that you need? So for me, a broad spectrum kind of plan is in order to be able to source your materials in the cheapest way, the quickest way, but also to get the best benefits that you need for your customer service, returns policies, things like that. You've got to look at it from all the angles in order to know where the best place is to buy materials. So in general, the great thing about wholesalers is, one, they generally have a large range of basic items in stock, so you can easily pick things up quickly. Two, they obviously get a wholesale price as such, that's why we call it a wholesaler, which supposedly is going to be cheaper than buying it from elsewhere, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But one of the main benefits of having a wholesaler actually is that they offer you a credit account. What that means is that you can buy all your materials for a month and then you have 30 days until you actually have to pay for them. And that can really help you when it comes to cash flow, because usually you don't get paid before you've done the job, you get paid afterwards. But you have to buy the materials before. So if you had to front the money to buy the materials, then do the job, and wait to get paid, you could end up being seriously out of pocket. And that's why there's a massive advantage to having a credit account with an electrical wholesaler or two, so that you can buy those materials, do the job, and once you've got paid, you can pay for the materials afterwards or around a similar time frame, and so you don't end up in debt or struggling with cash flow because you've paid for materials that you haven't been paid for by the customer. So that's one massive advantage of having a wholesaler account, is really to do with that credit facility that they provide you. Another advantage is that the guys in the wholesalers, they're experts in supplying electrical products. So often they can give you good recommendations and they can support you from behind the scenes by helping you to plan for jobs, for example. So some of my wholesalers, if I need to plan a big job, they can, for example, help me to get a lighting design done for a project. And that's a service that I couldn't really provide myself, but they've got a team who can do that for me. And they sort of include it as a free service to help you try to go with them to purchase their lighting products. That's just one example. Another example is for fire alarm systems. If I wanted to spec a fire alarm system, my local wholesaler has got a fire alarm guy and he will do a design for me for free, provide a quotation for all the materials, and then all I need to do is basically order the materials, install it, and then pay him to come back and do the commissioning. So it's a really great provision to have a wholesaler that is kind of like a team of people with knowledge who you can tap into as well, and can hopefully help you to know about some of the latest products that are out there which can help you to save time, find better quality materials, all those kind of things. A wholesaler is really a knowledge centre that you can tap into, so definitely having accounts with wholesalers is something that I would recommend. However, you might find that actually when you compare pricing, sometimes you can get things cheaper online, and that might make you think, well, isn't it better to just buy online and it'll save me a bit of money? There's a balance to be had here, because if we all just shopped online, wholesalers would not exist, and that whole service that they provide and the credit terms that they provide behind the scenes would die with them basically, and that would be a real shame. So it's worth paying a little bit extra, in my opinion, to support your local wholesalers. But also something to remember is that you can negotiate with them. So for example, if you get a few prices for a quote for a particular job, if there's one particular wholesaler that you really like them and want to work with them, but their prices are a little bit higher, you can always come back to them and say to them, look, I've got a cheaper quote elsewhere. Is it possible for you to match it? Because I'd really like to go with you guys. And that way you can get a decent price, but you can have the team working for you that you really want to work for. So that's wholesalers in a nutshell. But there is a place for ordering online, because sometimes the things you can get online you can't get from the wholesaler. So for example, recently I needed something quickly. I needed an electric shower to replace for someone, and I couldn't get it in time from the wholesaler, but I could get it on next day delivery with Amazon Prime. So it's one of those things. Sometimes you don't have a choice if you need something really, really quickly. Nowadays, a lot of wholesalers are going online, and they have these online systems where you can buy stuff up to 8 p.m. and you can get next day delivery. And if it's over a certain amount, it will be free delivery. So those are kind of good offers that some of the more modern wholesalers are doing now. And that can be really beneficial to be able to order things the night before and they arrive on site on the day. But as I say, planning is important to be able to make sure that you get your materials on site in time to be able to do the job. There's nothing worse than being held up on a job because you're waiting for materials. So we've talked about wholesalers, we've talked about buying stuff online. Those are the two main places that you will probably procure your materials from. Now, if you're buying online, a little trick that you can do is use a credit card. If you've got a business credit card, then that gives you the 30 days or whatever to be able to pay for something, which does help you with your cash flow. So for example, companies like American Express do really great business cards where you don't have to pay for 30 days after you purchase the item. So that can just help you with your cash flow if you're buying stuff online that you don't actually have to pay for upfront, all the materials in that situation. And some wholesalers, you can actually pay by credit card your wholesale bill as well, which then gives you another 30 days to pay for the materials if you want to. So that can be helpful sometimes too, but I would say definitely get an account with a wholesaler. You're going to use that a lot, and then have some go-to online places that you can find your materials. If you can't get them from the wholesaler, I'll leave a link in the description below for an Amazon business account where you can get that, because we've found that really helpful. So that's it about how to buy materials. Let's move on to the next lesson.